welcome to the Healing Circle podcast. Thanks for joining us for our second episode. I'm Desiree.
I'm Lauren Zakia.
And I'm Eda Cole.
We're faculty and fellows at InPower Institute, which is the Center for Community Healing and Optimal Living.
So our series, the InPower Healing Circle series, marks the 400th anniversary of the first Africans who arrived as captives to this country.
Today we'll center our discussion around the theme 400 years of dishonor has caused shame. It's time to heal, y'all. Circle up.
Circle up. I like that.
That girl good.
So how do we carry the weight of racialized shame?
Ooh, we starting off with
I
that.
know.
20-pound weight drop.
I know. I really think about, like, you know, when you're growing up, we are taught to really, like, carry the race. Like, if you do something embarrassing, then that reflects poorly on everybody. You know, if you do something that's out of line, like, you know, we're all cringing. And so we're just taught, like, you have to be without blame, in some ways without flaw, because everybody's watching. And if you mess up, it's going to, right. It's going to hurt all of us.
I would agree. But I would also say, I think my father, I call my father Fluff. So if you hear me mention Fluff, that's who it is. Right. So I was watching the news. I used to watch it religiously, like 3 times a day. He and I. And it was one time, it was like this young black guy who had just done some dastardly shit. Just like, it was just real raggedy. And I had that racialized shame, like, oh my gosh, like now we all look bad. And Fluff was like, you didn't do that shit. He was like, you went out here raping and right. killing people right. and selling drugs unless you got something you want to tell me.
Yeah.
And so that just, I always think about that. It was like, you know what, it's one thing because I'm always black first and I carry my black people with me everywhere, but I'm also not a gangbanger. So when gangbangers do gangbanger things, I can't be like, oh, that, you know, I'm a Crip today. I can't do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm about to say, that's real, cuz. No, that's, man, I was thinking a lot. So yeah, this is definitely, as soon as you gave us the question here, it kind of hit hard. It just automatically, my mind goes to all the different ways it looks like, how the different ways that we like contort our bodies to carry that weight of racialized shame, and how we get taught to like reinforce that to everyone. So yeah, I got plenty of stories where I saw, you know, either for myself, my own behavior, trying to self-police. Or then trying to police, like, let's say my cousins or my friends, and so that they don't think something. Have any of you ever remember, it could be growing up or anytime recently, maybe like you brought somebody to an event or something, maybe it was a work event, you know, one of your black family members or black friends, and, you know, or maybe you did not bring someone because, you know, they may talk with that, maybe it's that Southern black twang or whatever it is, or who, you know, and I'm just thinking about how that looks when I can just think of times of being nervous about if this, you know, something will come up or not, but then just really in a way continuing to carry the whip and just how that shows. But anyway, so my mind is just like circling a lot of different memories and emotional memories and experiences right now.
Oh, that's real. I can definitely remember like just being at family reunion. So like this supposed like safe space, but then that one cousin come in or that one uncle come in and everybody like, oh shit, here they come, because everybody knows what Junebug is on, and it's not what no one else is on. Yeah. So that whomever that person is for you, that makes you remember all of the negative things associated with being black or being a part of the diaspora. So definitely. And you can see it in other people's faces. So when you're at like a work function and somebody comes in, you might be fine, but you can see another black person is automatically embarrassed because like you around these white folk acting however it is you're acting, not representing us well.
You know, it goes if we see. I just did this the other day. A couple of my black friends got promoted at work, and I'm like, like, you know, like that's my paycheck coming in, motherfucker. You know, and I was like, we did that, and I was like, and so in some ways that's okay, but it's just I want to take a step back and recognize that it's directly related to the shame as well, as in thinking that this represents everybody, this represents everybody, when white folks tend to get a pretty good, nice pass, in many, if not all, cases of just representing themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think that is the result of the constant microscope that we are under, that we are inspected before we're respected, and so because of white supremacy and because we're always under the microscope and people are watching us and suspicious of us, you know, all of that is around shame because we internalize it. And so we fight hard not to be a stereotype or be what society has made this narrative about what it means to be black, all the negative characteristics. We try not to be that. And so it puts more pressure on us to just walk a narrow, straight line. And as you said, policing others and trying to get other people to walk that line too. Because, I mean, historically, I mean, we did that because it helped us to maintain some sense of safety. Because if one person, you know, often one person made a mistake or error, there was no room for human error. But when you're enslaved and one error happens, then not only are you punished, but it could be everybody on the plantation is punished. So we walk this line sometimes because we think that is what's going to keep us safe.
You know, that brings up a point that I feel like we brought up in our last podcast episode of 400 Years of Denial Was a Bitch. So is this idea, and we kind of were talking about it in the last episode in terms of when, you know, you may not agree to something as far as maybe even aggression or sexual advances towards your body, but then to keep the peace in the house or in the relationship, that you just kind of go with it to be safe. So it does not, you know, and so I'm just also kind of bringing that notion and that truth here into this episode. Because it's a way that in order to stay safe, how have we, you know, we've had to navigate and do a lot of contorting to stay safe. And then sometimes, we end up doing more harm than not. In doing so. But I feel like it's directly tied to is just this denial of our own bodies, this denial of our own freedom, and then when we do then sign off on that denial, either through force, but then at some point now it's through conditioning. Now it's just this extra weight and how we pass that on to our children. Yeah,
I mean, I think it's a confusion that we sometimes face because. I think the sin is white supremacy, misogynoir, homophobia. But when that comes in contact with our body, we take upon that sin as shame. So because we were treated in these ways, in these dishonorable ways, we internalize it. And it's not our shame. It is the sin that was committed against us.
Absolutely.
So how else have we probably confused white supremacy, homophobia, misogynoir, and all these other things that dismember us? How have we confused those sins with who we are and internalized it as our own shame?
One of the things that I immediately think about when hearing that question is from some of our extreme black counterparts. When they like to say the gay agenda or every time I hear it, I'm like, well, where did this agenda come from? Who wrote it? Who showed it to you?
Right.
Because you are not a part of that gay community.
Right.
So how would you even see it to know that it exists?
So either you gay in that community or you lying.
Right. One of the two. And either way, it's not working. Whatever you think it's supposed to do, it's not a thing. And I also think, I was like, that's something the white man taught you. Mm-hmm. Like, that is, for you to be so anti the establishment and anti-white, I said, you're feeding right into their palms, into what they're thinking. That is nothing but the master's tools given to you to destroy your own community.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's psychological blackface.
It is. Mm-hmm. It is.
Yeah.
There's no gay black agenda. You know, the community will still exist. The population will still grow, whether people are gay or not. But it's just not a thing. Yeah. But that's what that question always, when I hear it, I'm like, oh, niggas is wildin', because that makes no sense to me. It's just not logical.
Yeah, what's crazy is I feel like I be hearing some of these same folks, because I'm already starting to picture them as soon as you said that in my mind here, who we'll probably see this week. That I feel like sometimes they be so tough on the gay agenda within the black community, they don't even spend time targeting the white agenda that has been ever present.
Right.
You know, and I'm just like, yo, and but then we'll have all the books that they done read on every single thing, all the research. But so y'all skipped all those chapters on how you were taught and conditioned to cannibalize your the love for your people, your people, just to eat up all this. That's wild. Lauren, you got a lot, don't you?
Well, I'm just saying we haven't healed. I mean, healing is a continuous thing. I mean, there are things that I have healed from, but I am still walking in this practice of healing. And so if I'm triggered, then that is an opportunity for me to lean deeper into my own healing. But I think that the visceral responses that we often see in those circumstances is an unhealed trauma or something that's unhealed, whether that's personally or generationally. I mean, both need to be the case. But we often fear. You said this, I think, yesterday, Josere, like this fear that's masquerading as something else, and it comes out as anger or resentment. Yeah. And so rather than deal with my own fear around my own insecurity, around my own pain, I'm projecting. And so I'm pointing the finger at you.
So never mind my ashy ankles. Right. Never mind the dumpster fire that's going on in my living room. I'm going to decide to focus all of my energy on what I perceive to be wrong with you in the way that you are being black. Yeah. And that takes many forms. Like we just talked about this homophobia and especially this misogynoir. Like a lot of times I sit and I think about all the news stories that I'm hearing, all of the conversations that I'm overhearing, and I'm like, ooh, sometimes I doubt that black men actually like black women. Or do you just want to have sex with black women?
Control, dominate, maybe.
Yeah. Because the way that you are acting towards me and to those like me, it makes me think that you don't actually like me. You don't want to have a conversation with me.
You just want to penetrate.
You just want to penetrate. You want me to bend to your will. Yeah. And when I say, well, no, I have my own thoughts. Let's talk about it. Now I'm all types of bitches and all types of hoes. Well, I was that before you came over
here.
And
about this white agenda. Now I'm gonna bring up the white agenda.
now you
don't you talk about your freedom. Now you a bed wench. White.
Now you a bed wench. Yeah. you just want that white man dick.
Yeah. Well, I see that as playing the dozens. Now I heard this in a anti-racism training, and the term "playing the dozen." Now this is probably an old school term, but joning or whatever. But playing the dozens goes back to the period of enslavement where black people who had some type of ailment or disfigurement, they were clumped together and in a group of 12. So if, my hand was cut off for whatever reason, I can't work as hard because I have a disability, like all of those were put in a group of 12 and they were sold together. And so then other enslaved blacks pointing, look at them Negroes. He ain't got a hand, and look at her. She got this big scar on the side of her face, because it's distracting me from the pain that I'm experiencing. So I'm pointing the finger, and we do that. We play the dozens.
And it's because it's so much easier to project than to deal with our own issues and to try and heal. Because like you stated, healing is never a period. It is always a comma, a semicolon. Because it's a continuous thing. But if I can distract you from what I got going on over here, then I can continue to live in this little cyclone of crazy of my own and just make people look at what you got going on.
Yeah, it's a lot of people of color who have definitely adopted, I'm going to just say white self-hate, and then have completely then passed it on and adopted as not even recognizing, this is my own self-hate, but like just exactly what y'all are saying, of now I'm going to project it outward. And so that's exactly, so much of what we were met with and have been met with. It's experience in the workplace, and like anytime I'm, on social media and you hear and you see people, it happened, especially in the beginning and up until more recently, even with like R. Kelly type shit, of the defense and how immediately timeline got split almost in, it was like black guys and black women, and then a lot of black, gender non-conforming and black trans folks were all on the side on one side, and it was black cisgender men all on the other side, for the most part. Even on that split, and I'm just like, fuck, like you just straight up wanted to soak up like white folks' germs.
But when you try to explain it to them, now you are the enemy.
Yeah.
Why you want to bring a black man down? Well, shit, this black man trying to kill me. Like, he had me in the basement, chained up. Like, that's a violation.
Right.
And you being a black man,
right,
supposed to be on my side, you should understand that.
Right. Response is, but if he was a white man, you wouldn't be saying it.
How
about he should not be doing that?
I would want black, white, Puerto Rican, Asian, orange, all of it. Right. I ain't with the shits. So, if you violate, then you deserve whatever that repercussion and consequence is. I have no allegiance to my race when it comes to that. Like, you are not going to disrespect women of color, non-binary folks who are in danger. I'm not with that.
Yeah. Which is what we have had to do, particularly women, for the sake of the overall black community. We have had to deny parts of our femaleness and our experiences as female in order to push, forth the whole community. So we were taught to deny, yes, you're experiencing abuse at the hands of men, or yes, you've experienced, abuse at the hands of cisgender people, but let's work on this black thing first.
Right.
Let's get this.
And it's not even to say, I don't want people to think that it's only men who are misogynistic, because there are plenty of women.
Yeah.
And I've seen some people who land on neither side, the non-binary, who also internalize these type of things and are now misogynistic.
Yeah.
And so I don't want people like, they hate men. No, we don't hate men. Some of them are trifling, but we don't hate them.
Right. What we're talking about is, like what I was saying is the continuum of buying in the sickness of your oppressor.
Right.
Buying into, of adopting your oppressor's self-hate, your oppressor's self-denial. Should we kick it back to episode 1?
Right.
So, how that then translate, you are still, I take it back to Let's go back to the plantation. We sure do have a nice house, don't we, Master?
Right.
Well, we sure do have some nice self-denial, don't we? Right. We sure do hate ourselves. Let's go. We sure will go ahead and project it on our women's, our children's, and everything. I'm gonna keep talking like this.
and it's all internalized, and it's all a work in progress. And I think the sooner we can actually be honest with ourselves and those we love, like, hey, these are things that we actually need to deal with. We cannot further whatever our agenda is. I do not think we have a collective Black agenda, but that is another discussion for another day. We won't be able to push forward until we can strip away us thinking that we are each other's enemies and having these types of discussions. We just want everyone to be better. And being better, that means we have to heal these wounds, these open, gaping wounds that are festering and have been festering for 400 years and will continue to fester until we decide to put a salve on it. And that salve is open communication and love and understanding.
Yeah, so how is self-love liberating and an act of resistance? I mean, I think self-love is an act of resistance. Right. That period.
Within itself.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah. Definitely is. And I would say, I'm going to keep with my sickness analogy, is making a stance to, like the buck stops here to detox and say, in the words of Miss Sophia, hell no. Yeah.
The self-love is definitely an act of resistance and liberation, because you are saying enough is enough. I'm not going to stand for being treated however you feel I should be treated. Yeah. I have enough respect for myself and enough confidence in who I am to love myself as I am, wherever I am, and to move through the world as such. Like we previously discussed, of course that's going to be met with some friction and resistance, but that just shows you how uncomfortable those people are. They are not ready to accept themselves. So however I am may be different than however you are, and both versions are okay. And if I'm different today than when you saw me yesterday, guess what? That's okay too. If I haven't seen you in 10 years and now I'm bald head, guess what? That's okay too. Right. You're going to accept me as I am or not accept me. And it's fine either way. But I'm going to continue to move through this space-time continuum as a magical Black being, and you're going to get with it or get left.
Yeah. Yeah, that's real. It's resistance, and I think of mirrors, right? We're all mirrors, And so I feel like Desiree, why do I feel like you said this? You either said it today or maybe you said it yesterday. Another day. But if I make the stance to free myself and to say hell no, then you're going to automatically be exposed to that hell no. You're going to hear it, you're going to see it, you're going to feel it, right? And so then that just gives more room. When I choose me, you have more room to choose you, and the next person has more room to choose them and choose them and choose, and so it's an act of resistance because this shit can get contagious.
Yeah. I was thinking of the Zora Neale Hurston quote, and it's escaping me around if you are silent when they kill you or something, they will say you liked it. I'm butchering that.
That's a loose interpretation of it, but I definitely know what you're talking about. Like, if you're silent when they're abusing you or violating you, they're going to assume that you like it. Yeah. That is not word for word, but that is what the gist of it is. Yeah. So yeah. And so it's just around the not being silent about it. The resistance is no. The no is a vocal, verbal declaration. Self-love is a verbal. It's a verbal declaration, but it's also an action that is followed. So you are clear. You're clear with yourself, but you're also clear to other people. This is me. I accept myself fully, and I will not be put in a box, the box in which you have
carved out for me and told me that I must reside in, I'm breaking out of that box.
So I'm gonna use an analogy here. So is actually probably a lot of people don't know, but I actually used to be a dog trainer, dog behavior management specialist, and all that. And so the way that dogs when they're puppies learn bite inhibition is because they're playing with their siblings and everything, and then if they're roughhousing and then they bite too hard, the sibling will yelp or whatever, and so automatically there's an internal trigger that'll make that puppy back the hell off. Okay. As soon as no is said, you back the hell off. And so for like a lot of times for like dogs who don't get to grow up around like the litter and everything, they don't get to play with that like my crazy dog at home. So I bring this up because of how much silence was used as a tool. Mm-hmm. Because I do firmly believe that there is an internal mechanism that when you are hearing no and you are hearing outcry, that it's doing something. For regardless of like whatever ethnicities, there is an internal thing that's going to connect on a human way of ooh. Now what you do after that is a whole other story. But if you can silence more people, either physically silence them or try to condition them to be silent, then you can keep on and apply more. So something about the quote that you all were bringing up that just made me think of that. Man, what if we're the only species who tried to silence no,
right, or have a visceral reaction to hearing no, because some people just cannot take it. They do not like rejection. They don't like being denied. So Lauren was saying that love is an action, and it definitely is an action verb. And especially when it comes to self-love, you have to show yourself that action before you can act upon it with other people that you say you love. And I think that in itself shows a monstrous amount of power and command for your own being.
Yeah, I found the quote. If you are silent about your pain, they will kill you and say you enjoyed it.
Yeah. I think that ties in the racialized shame, the white supremacy, homophobia, misogynoir, all of that, because these are all things that we've been taught to suppress. Yeah. To just go along to get along. But when you pipe up, it's like, no, I'm not with that shit. Now you are uncivilized. Now we can't bring you around the good white folks. Now you are reacting and acting in such a way that is against the norm. Yeah. But like you said, it is contagious. When you see somebody else being like authentically themselves and happy, you can't help but want to be the same way.
Yeah. My mind automatically goes to our babies in schools, right? Our black and brown youth are rejecting the educational system because it is mental, spiritual rape. It's oppressive as hell, and it's a rejection of an illness, of a virus that is trying to be implanted into their minds, into their spirits. The ancestors are speaking through them, like hell no, and so I bringing that up absolutely becomes contagious and everything. By all means, resist. But I want to make sure that we're clear to anyone listening that even with that quote, recognize too that you may still get killed even after that. Yeah. So it's not that if you don't speak up, it won't happen. Yeah. Because a lot of times, people will try to twist that and do some victim blaming. Well, like, oh, well, you shouldn't have worn that outfit, or such and such and such. Well, did you say no loud enough? Or did you say no at all? Well, you know what, motherfucker shouldn't have been trying to be all up on you and raping you and doing a whole bunch of other stuff. And whatever the offense that everything is. And so just want to make it clear that that's not what we're saying. Is that, it's your fault then. Right. At all.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So claiming these acts of resistance and being in love with oneself and showing self-love is just a conduit to your other parts of liberation that we want you to experience and that we want you to have. So we want you to join us on November 9th to reimagine and reclaim and remember pleasure with an intimate experience with other people of color here at the InPower Institute. You can find that information on our website, www.empowerinstitute.com. Connect with us on Instagram and Facebook at InPower Institute. Ask these same questions to your friends and families, and interact with us.
Yeah.
Pose your responses, your questions. If you agree, disagree, or have more questions about some of the things we said, follow what Desiree just told you. Hit us up on any of those platforms, and we will gladly respond.
Yeah. See you next time.
Bye.